This is the 365 Sports Fantasy Football Show. Here's Paul Catalina, Steve May, and Grayson Grundhaver.
Well, I'm going to have to get a new open cut because Grayson...
It makes me sad every time we hear that.
Yeah, I know.
He's not here.
It's not available to us because he's coaching basketball. And we were off last week for Thanksgiving. So I'm sure people have missed our sage wisdom.
I was here. I did a solo show.
You did a solo show? I mean, Jacob wasn't here, I know. So I don't know how you did all that. But yeah.
That's impressive.
I watched some YouTube videos. I figured it out.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, we got a lot to get to. I had an 0-2 week, or I 1-2. The one league I don't completely count because it was an auto draft league, and I don't have any control over who the quarterbacks are who are available. Like I didn't have that. Like it just.
So in that league, everybody has to auto draft?
Yeah, everybody has to auto draft. So you set your priorities.
Right. Yeah.
And what I did not take into account was I'm drafting with some people whose priority first is quarterback. Mm-hmm. So that when it came to my priorities, so like if you're in an auto draft league, which can kind of be fun if you're doing it with, if I did an auto draft league with like all of you and we all set our priorities, it might be kind of fun to see how we fight our way out of that.
Yeah.
Because some things can be really good or feast or famine, and it's like a nice little thought exercise. But when you're playing with other people who have different kind of skill levels on fantasy football, mm-hmm. and somebody puts their top 3 priorities as quarterback and their first 3 picks are a quarterback, and then my quarterbacks wind up being like Daniel Jones and Matt Ryan and all that, I didn't even get like a pass at any of the middle tier guys. So it's been hard for me to like really take that league seriously because, there's somebody on the team that has like Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, and Justin Fields. And they can only play one of them. And then when you offer a trade for them, like,
I'm
good. So, so I was 0-2 in the leagues that I care about, and lost a nail biter in our league, Steve.
Yep.
Came down to Monday night. I needed Michael Pittman to play one play and leave the game. That's what I needed him to do. He didn't do that.
Didn't he do that the week before?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
He got negative points.
Yeah. I needed that because I was up by less than a point.
Yeah.
And then in my other league, I lost a close game to the guy who hasn't set his lineup because his lineup is actually really good and the bye weeks are over. So that's how I did. How did you do?
Not good. Like I said, this is by far my worst season. Now, I'm in 11 leagues. In some of the leagues, I am going to make playoffs. Those are just leagues that I just kind of join randomly. But in the leagues that I care the most about and invest the most time in, I have not done well. And I've been kind of reflecting on where I went wrong. And honestly, I know we're doing this and giving advice to whoever. I listened to too many experts on my draft, and I got caught up in the try to get a stud running back early, and then not worry about running back for like 4 or 5 rounds, and that did not work. Mm-hmm. And wait on quarterback. So next year I'm gonna trust my instincts a little bit more and do better.
Sorry to hear that, Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you've definitely given us some good nuggets on this show, but it's unfortunate to hear that its effect has been not so great on the personal front. I would like to wrap up the part where we talk about our performances with a high note because 3 leagues that I'm in the past 2 weeks, I've lost 1 game across all of those, and so. I'm feeling pretty good. I owe a lot of gratitude to Cordero Patterson, Kenneth Walker, Brian Robinson Jr., these running backs that, 2 of those are rookies and, one that we weren't sure if he was going to, even come back after he was on IR. And so you don't always have to find your running backs early on. Sometimes, fortune just falls onto you, and a little bit of, looking at those rookies preseason, I think always does a little good too.
Fortune favors the Braves. And another thing I looked at, I'm usually pretty good with the waiver wire. So in every league I set up, I do it where after the draft, the waiver wire is flipped. So if you had the last pick of the draft, you're set in the first spot of the waiver. And then when when you make a waiver move, you go to the bottom. It's not based on
Yeah,
standings. And I think that's the fair way to do it. So you got to put in some strategy there. As you move your way up the waiver list, when you get up there to that 1, 2, 3 spot, that becomes very valuable. And you got to decide, am I going to cash in my spot here for somebody I think is going to do well? And in that regard, I made some bad moves. I got really excited in our league for Garoppolo when he was named the starter, and Justin Fields wasn't doing well at the time.
Worked out great for me.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even really that high up on the waiver wire when it happened. I just needed a quarterback.
Yeah. Well, so I grabbed Garoppolo, and I was up pretty high because Aaron Rodgers is my other quarterback. He wasn't doing well. And so I cut Fields to get Garoppolo. At the time, it made sense because the Bears were not throwing it maybe 13, 14 times a game. Fields at the time really wasn't getting a lot of rushing yards. So they had not figured it out, which it seems like they've done now. So that really hurt me in that league. So other moves like that where it just I used my spot, went to the bottom, and through the rest of the season have not been able to move back up to make any really significant moves.
Yeah. Well, look, Aaron Rodgers brings up the topic I want to talk about in the first segment here because it's him. He is apparently going to play this week. He said so on Pat McAfee that he's going to play. I don't know what benefit that is to the Packers right now because he's playing with a broken thumb already. And this rib thing, while it's not broken, it's still going to hurt.
Yeah.
It's still going to restrict him a little bit. And Jordan Love looks like he's ready to play a little bit. And you would do well maybe for a team that is pretty much out of it in the Packers. They are really going to have to fight their way back into it to maybe at least just sit Aaron Rodgers down for a couple weeks and see what Jordan Love can do. I do think that part of the reason that Aaron Rodgers is playing is he knows this and would rather them not find out these things, but because then that takes away the control he's had over the whole organization for a little while. Well,
they're playing the Bears. The Bears' defense is horrible. So I think it's twofold. He knows if Jordan Love goes in there, he's probably going to do well against that defense. At the same time, if Rodgers can play,
and he owns the Bears.
Yes, he owns the Bears. So he should also have a good game. So I think, the way that team is run with no real owner or general manager really, Rodgers can pretty much do what he wants to do. So I think he has said, I'm going to play this game for multiple of vanity reasons, probably.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think, Jacob? I mean, I'm curious to see what Jordan Love has if I'm the Packers.
I think the Packers should really, really throw him out there because he looked really sharp. And like last year, it was clear when he got a chance to go in there, he wasn't quite ready. But he's been on the bench for 3 years now. And so there might be a formula, very long-term formula in Green Bay happening right now. Draft a guy, let him learn for a couple of years, 2, maybe 3, and then throw him out there, and he'll be hungry and ready to go, as opposed to just drafting a rookie and throwing him into the fire immediately. That formula has failed too many times. And with Aaron Rodgers, from a fantasy standpoint, it's just not good for the team as a whole. He's the quarterback 16 on the season. He's on waiver he is only 75% owned in ESPN leagues, which for a guy who used to be the elite quarterback,
4-time MVP,
the elite
Last
quarterback is absolutely wild. He's a quarterback 16 on the season. He only put up 16 fantasy points the last time he played the Bears, even though he technically owns them. I think it's pure ego, and if he actually makes it through the entire game, it's not going to be great for the Packers.
No, and look, they've really hit on something in Christian Watson.
Yeah,
and last week was the first week they kind of got him the ball in situations that weren't just automatic touchdowns, but they've really hit on him, and A.J. Dillon really has played well the last couple weeks. Aaron Jones is a star. They've got good things going on there. Alan Lazard is a steady receiver. They probably need another guy who's maybe more of a, in the middle of the field, chain mover, but they've hit it. There's some good things going on there. The thing that's holding them back right now is just Aaron Rodgers is not what he has been.
Yeah.
And that could be just injuries this year, and he could come back next year and and play really well, I don't think he's going to be with the Packers next year. I
don't either. No.
I think that trade is eventually going to happen. And
in my opinion, we'll do our start 'em, sit 'em here in a little bit. This is probably the last weekend that you could possibly start Aaron Rodgers and hope that he throws for 2 or 3 touchdowns, just because who they're playing. So
I wouldn't even necessarily count on that because he just hasn't really been very impressive all season long.
Right.
And he's obviously, when you're playing with broken ribs, you've got to be one tough dude. He hasn't surpassed 20 points in any one game this year, which that used to be just set it and forget it with him. And so there's got to be so many guys that you can stream over him. And to your point, Paul, about where he's going to be next year, I think the New York Giants would be an interesting landing spot for him personally.
Yeah, I think they would, depending, especially since they're not going to have a high draft pick.
Yeah.
Right, to go get a quarterback to replace Daniel Jones, who they're not bringing back.
you don't think so?
No. I mean, they've already not exercised this option.
Yeah.
He's going to hit free agency, and he'll be somebody's backup.
I see a Mitchell Trubisky type projection for him.
Yeah, exactly. Where there might be a couple of games where like, oh, that was kind of fun. Good job, Daniel Jones. And the rest of it's like, can the other guy, please, can his ACL just heal right now with that? So, I think the Titans are kind of interesting for him too.
Yeah.
I know they love Ryan Tannehill, but they're kind of.
Well, they got Malik Willis.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah.
And I get he's a rookie and he's a 3rd round pick, but when you get your first start and they don't call pass plays, I kind of know all I need to know about what they think about your ability to do that, short term and long term. Right? I think that.
But he played at Liberty.
Great. So I think, and I think that that's right. I mean, and he might wind up being Justin Fields or something like that. But I think and there's going to be a lot of quarterbacks drafted in this coming draft. There's going to be a lot. But the Giants, if they keep playing as well as they have, for most of the year, if they get, especially if they get in the playoffs, then they're not really going to be in position to draft one of those guys necessarily.
Right now, all 4 NFC East teams would be in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It's not going to end up that way.
No.
But it might, but they, there's just so much that has to happen on down the line. All right, let's take a break right here. We'll come back. We'll do start 'em, sit 'em. I'm gonna go out on a limb on one of them, but I think you're at that point in the year where you've got some injuries, some attrition, some guys who aren't playing well. So one of my starts, especially my quarterback, is someone you probably wouldn't think of, but I'm gonna throw it out there theoretically.
I liked it.
Yeah, Jacob liked it. I don't know. We'll see what Steve thinks about it.
I saw it, but I can't remember who it was.
This is the Fantasy Football Show, 365 Sports.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Born in Waco, Brotherwell Brewing exists to serve the Central Texas community with locally crafted beer of the highest quality. They want to bring Central Texas closer to the brewing experience so everyone can enjoy well-made beer as much as they do. For 2.5 years, they've been bringing high-quality beer to Central Texas at their location on Bridge Street in East Waco. Brotherwell Brewing believes in community and bringing people together to enjoy products made in their community. So for your game day, whether it's a tailgate or at home, stop by Brotherwell Brewing for high-quality craft beer made right here in Central Texas, 400 East Bridge Street, and check them out online at brotherwell.com.
This is the 365 Sports Fantasy Football Show. Here's Paul Catalina, Steve May, and Grayson Grundhaver.
Actually, Jacob Wilson, I'll fix that. We still have a few weeks to go here, so. Got to send a big email to the voice guy anyway. So throw that in there. All right, let's jump right into it. Start 'em, sit 'em. And we'll end with mine, because mine I think will have the most spirited debate, at least on the quarterback. But let's start with Steve today.
All right. All right. So starts of the week. I like Trevor Lawrence this week. They're playing Detroit. Those last two drives last week with Lawrence, those were really good. And, it kind of seems like the light is going on. Him and head coach Peterson are clicking. It's a great matchup. So if you got him, this might be a great week to play him. Rashad White, Fournette status, I think, is still kind of up in the air. But
they announced he will not be traveling with the team or playing this week.
Great. So now New Orleans is a tougher matchup defensively, but White's going to get all the carries there, and he's a good receiver out of the backfield. So I love that one. Kareem Hunt, kind of an odd one there. So Deshaun Watson is back. I think they're going to just pound the ball against Houston, which is a very poor run defense. So Nick Chubb was an obvious one. You're going to play him if you got him. But I also think Kareem Hunt is going to get a lot of action there in that matchup. Juju Smith, I think they've kind of weaned him back into the lineup after being in the concussion protocol. Wasn't on the field as much as he normally is as last week. This week, I think he's back to normal in that slot. KC versus Cincinnati should be a shootout. It has one of the higher over-under projections for this week. So I love Schuster. And then Pickens against Atlanta. Pickens is definitely the number one receiver there. Deontay Johnson maybe listed as one, but Pickens and Pickett have the connection. Atlanta is horrible on defense, so I think Pickens is a great play.
And your sits.
And sits. Tom Brady, he hasn't done well, and then he does not play well against New Orleans for whatever reason. It's kind of weird. So just kind of playing the percentages there, watch him throw for 5 touchdowns. So Brady up there for a sit. Dameon Pierce, I don't know what's going on there. I think the last 3 weeks, I'm not even sure if he's got double-digit fantasy points. If he has, it hasn't been much over double digits. So just whatever's happening there, it's definitely a bad trend. So sitting Pierce if you have better options. Jeff Wilson Jr., Mostert is back. Wilson is the number one there, but there's some familiarity there with Shanahan. So I think they're going to key on Wilson.
Well, it's a bad matchup. I mean,
it's a bad matchup. 49er defense is stout. So, again, if you have a better option, you might consider it. Michael Pittman Jr., I think Matt Ryan is going to be running for his life. At least I hope so. So there's going to be a lot of dumping it off to the running back, to the tight ends. Pittman probably isn't going to have too many shots, too many opportunities to catch the ball. So I put Pittman on there. And then Tyler Boyd, Chase is back this week. It's going to be Chase and Higgins. Boyd will slide down to that third spot, which in this game might not be that bad, but he's definitely the number 3 option now on that team. So
yeah. All right. Jamar Chase probably back.
Yeah.
That's where it's trending. And I think he and Higgins actually will both have big weeks this week because, again, it's going to be a shootout.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think there's potential for that. And Joe Mixon is still probably not going to play. So, Jacob, what do you got?
All right. That starts the week. I like Jared Goff against the Jaguars this week. Jacksonville, they're 25th against fantasy quarterbacks. It's a 51.5 point over-under, almost the highest one of the week. And look, Jared Goff had 17.6 against a really impressive Bills defense last week, and that heartbreaker. If you're a Lions fan, I'm sorry to bring that one back up again. And at home this year, he's got a 15 to 3 touchdown to interception ratio. I really like the way that he was played at home this year. I'm just looking for another shootout there with the Jags and the Lions. And Brian Robinson Jr. with the big hat.
He said he has a friend that sells those.
Oh, yeah.
It's tempting to We all need to get one. We need to have a show with the big.
We'll get a 365 sports hat. Don't you worry. And the Giants, middle of the road, 17th against fantasy running backs, but he had 23.5 last week against the Falcons. That was with a 5.8 yards per carry. And his carry count has been 26, 15, and 18 for the past 3 games. I like how he is trending. Still not necessarily outperforming Antonio Gibson, but he's still getting more volume. And then I got Isaiah Pacheco. Look, they signed Melvin Gordon to their practice squad. I think this may or may not be Pacheco's last opportunity to be the absolute lead carrier in Kansas City right now. I know Cincinnati, they did a good job of handling Derrick Henry last week, but Pacheco plays definitely a different game. And he's had, last 3 games, 16, 15, 22 carries, 5.1 per carry during that stretch. I like it. It might be his swan song, or it might be his chance to go out and take the job.
I think it's his job now. I really do.
Yeah.
He's so fast.
Yeah, yep.
And then I've got Darius Slayton, Washington. They're 19th against fantasy receivers. He's had double-digit performances 4 of his past 5 games, and his average yards per carry is 17.6 this year. And to put that into perspective, Justin Jefferson is 15.2, Tyreek Hill is 14.2. And so while Darius Slayton doesn't quite get the volume, he makes the most of what he gets, and that's why I like him this week against Washington. And then I've got Drake London going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers this week. The Steelers, they're second to last against fantasy receivers. I don't think the Falcons will be able to cruise on their running game to win this one. I think it's, it might be a little ugly, but it'll be more competitive than some people might predict. Drake London, while he doesn't get the volume that he should, he's got touchdowns in 2 of his past 3 games, and Kyle Pitts is on IR, so that's simply one fewer mouth there to feed.
Yeah.
And then
go to your sits.
All right. I know it says starts, but these are my actual sits. Deshaun Watson. Look, you might be excited because he was at one point a very, very good fantasy quarterback, but he hasn't played in over 700 days. Like everyone keeps saying, the Texans are actually 4th against fantasy quarterbacks, and I don't know if that's really how good they are or if it's just because teams get up and cruise on the run game. And he looked bad in the preseason against Jacksonville. He was 1 for 5 for 20 yards. It didn't make me think that this guy is back, and we don't know if he has the chemistry with that team yet. And Raheem Mostert, for the same reasons you mentioned, Jeff Wilson Jr., he's only got 8 and 9 carries over his past 2 games, and he was limited in practice today. I'm not really all that confident. I think if the Dolphins win this game, they're going to have to throw it a ton. And then I've got A.J. Dillon there going up against Chicago, but he's had single-digit performances in all but 2 weeks this season. And when the Packers play the Bears, Aaron Rodgers seems to want to run the show. And the last time he played the Bears, it was 18 for 61. That's a 3.4 yard per carry average. And that's, he only ended up with 7.7 against them. Even though it's a favorable matchup, I don't like A.J. Dillon because he's also been a little bit banged up as well. I got Deontay Johnson there going up against the Falcons on the other side of the ball in this game. I know Atlanta is 29th against fantasy wide receivers, but he has not scored a single touchdown this entire season.
Nope.
He hasn't surpassed 16.4 in any game. And like I mentioned with that average yards per catch with Darius Slayton, Deontay Johnson is at 9. That is not an impressive number whatsoever. And then I've got Brandon Cooks because it's just been an absolute battering ram for him this season, having to take passes from Davis Mills.
My hope is that Brandon Cooks gets traded to a team with a good quarterback in the offseason.
I really kind of thought the Cowboys would make a move for him.
I think it was too much guaranteed money. They've got some other things to do.
71 targets, 44 catches. I'll just let you know that's how bad Davis Mills has been for him this year.
All right, my starts this week. At quarterback, I'm going to go Mike White, the Jets against Minnesota. This is not something you can maybe do every week, but if you've got a bye week or injury or whatever, I don't think this is bad. I think he's playing to prove his NFL future. I think there's a little bit of a team that's trying to show Zach Wilson how to be a professional. Mike White, very much a journeyman, but had a good week last week, had some good weeks last year when he started at quarterback for the Jets. So this is a very short-term thing, but I like Mike White here this week. maybe next 2, but I do kind of like this here. This is, look, I'm saying it's a reach.
I just think you have to keep in context who we're talking about. Now, crazy things happen. I mean, could he be the next Kurt Warner going from grocery store to Super Bowl MVP? Who knows? But, drafted by the Cowboys and then cut. Mm-hmm. So there's a reason that when Wilson got hurt earlier, they went to Flacco and not White earlier on in the season. So we'll see. I mean, the matchup against Minnesota is going to be much better than the Jets played the Bears last week. That was a perfect, opportunity for him. One of those touchdowns to Garrett Wilson, he was totally wide open because the Bears defender fell down or got hurt. I forget what happened on that play. But so definitely exciting, but I think we just need to keep things in check with Mike White.
All right. Jacob, you like it, though.
I do. He's a lot of fun to watch play for the Jets right now, and he provides upside to the pass-catching weapons in New York that Zach Wilson just wasn't getting done.
Yeah. David Montgomery against Green Bay. Green Bay's defense is very blah.
Yeah.
It has its moments, but for the most part, it's very blah, I think. And again, with Justin Fields limited at best, when he's going to be in there, you're going to see more of David Montgomery carrying the ball because they're not going to want Justin Fields to take hits with that injured left shoulder. Samaje Perine against Kansas City. He's going to probably start, this changes if Joe Mixon all of a sudden gets better. I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's probably another week out. So Samaje Perine against Kansas City. Kansas City's defense, not good against the run. But part of that might also be because not many people run on them for very long. But again, you can run on the Chiefs, and this game is going to be a shootout. Treylon Burks against Philadelphia. I know this one sounds a bit of a stretch. I'm going to tell you, but the only receiver that Ryan Tannehill's thrown to in the last couple weeks has really been Treylon Burks. So probably more of a flex spot guy, but he can get you double-digit points.
And he can recover a fumble in the end zone and get a touchdown.
Again, so there's that too. But he's had 2 good weeks since he's been back, and they don't really have any other targets to throw to.
They just don't throw it very much.
Yeah.
No matter what's going on in the game, they just don't throw it very much because I don't think they trust Tannehill.
Yeah.
And they have Derrick Henry.
Yeah. So. Paul, I got a random text message a couple of days ago from a friend out of the blue. I hadn't talked to him in maybe a month or so, and he just said, "Thank you." And I said, "For what?" And he said, "For dropping Treylon Burks."
Yeah, and he had a really good week a couple weeks ago. And so, and he's going to be the number one there. He's the number one there. He's going to be. And I do, this one's interesting to me. Mike Vrabel, too. I'm going to this game, he's going to take this one super seriously. Mm-hmm. He's that kind of guy, where beating the Eagles will really mean a lot to him because, it kind of says where his team is. Who's going to win the division going away because it's awful beneath them. But this is kind of a big momentum thing. The same way he plays against the Chiefs. I think the Eagles kind of fits into that.
Honestly, I think at this point, the way Nick Sirianni acts, I think every coach wants to beat him.
Yeah, except Frank Reich, and he's not coaching. So
yeah. So
and Christian Watson, touchdown machine right now.
6 touchdowns in 3 weeks.
Yeah, and I don't see that changing because what else is there to throw to there? And you might sit. Look, I'll tell you right now, as somebody who rosters him, you're going to sit for 2 quarters and go, "Come on now,"
with a goose egg.
But you're like, man, or one catch for for 18 yards that could have been a touchdown if the defender cut the other way.
Yeah.
But in the end of the game, they really feed it to him because he's their best option to score him a touchdown, and they're usually behind. Mm-hmm. So Christian Watson. My sits this week, Derek Carr.
Oh, apologies. Those are Steve's.
Yeah. Derek Carr against the Chargers. I know this might be the week maybe I should play Derek Carr because they're playing the Chargers in that defense, which is a little suspect. No, don't do it. Just don't. Gus Edwards against Denver. And Latavius Murray against Baltimore. This is just a bad running back matchup all the way around.
I think the only thing that might affect that, there was news today that Lamar Jackson has a quad injury. So if he doesn't play, I think Edwards might have a little bit more value.
Yeah, I think.
But I agree. As it is right now, I agree with
that. I cannot afford to do this right now because my wide receiver situation is dire. But Mike Evans has kind of just been in a funk. And so I would, if you can sit Mike Evans, go ahead and sit him. Now, and they're playing New Orleans, where Brady never plays well against. So, this is not, if you're going to sit Mike Evans for a week, this is probably the one. And also every Patriots pass catcher. I do like their guys. I like a lot of their guys. Yeah. The problem is that they don't really have, like Jacoby Myers should be more of a target machine. He's not really, though. The really only player you can trust to get you points every week on the Patriots is Ramondre Stevenson.
Myers had a stretch there about 3 or 4 weeks where he was getting a ton of targets, but man, that has dropped off.
Yeah. And so it's kind of just random. Like, okay, look, here's 3 passes to Tyquan Thornton when he's in, or here's 5 passes to Myers, here's 4 passes to Aguilar. Yeah. Kendrick Bourne had 6 receptions tonight. That's kind of how they do it with the Patriots and how they've done it for kind of a long time. But they don't have that target machine there. So
do you know why that is? Because Bill Belichick. I don't care about fantasy football.
Yeah.
He said those words, bastard.
Yeah. Well, look, he doesn't. I mean, like, if he's just trying to spite people, I mean, he could go get a number 1 receiver and make it better for everything, And look, Mac Jones, I think, is hurt by this because I think he's an okay player. Like, he's fine if you give enough stuff around him, and he's shown that because they've won enough this year, but he's not somebody who, like the last guy they had there, the GOAT, who can make everybody around him better. I don't think Mac Jones is necessarily that guy. But I think if you surround Mac Jones with premium talent, he can win you games. But, when the best receiver you have is Jacoby Myers, You got a bunch of guys who are the number 2 and number 3 on every other team. That's what they are. And I love Tyquan Thornton. He was here at Baylor. Love him. I think he's going to be a really good NFL player. He's really fast, but he's also probably not a number 1 receiver.
Right.
It's not really what his gig is. So I don't know. The Patriots, they make no sense. But Ramondre Stevenson is finally like a valuable workhorse, and the Patriots haven't had one of those in a very, very, very long time. Because also Bill Belichick's like, we're going to play 6 running backs. Brandon Bolden's going to get 7 carries today.
Yeah, Remember Jonas Gray?
Yeah.
How excited everyone was to start him after dropping a 40 burger, and then he sleeps in and doesn't get any carries at all the next week.
Yeah, absolutely. So there you go. That's our stardom sit-em. When we come back, our daily fantasy lineups of the week.
Born in Waco, Brotherwell Brewing exists to serve the Central Texas community with locally crafted beer of the highest quality. They want to bring Central Texas closer to the brewing experience so everyone can enjoy well-made beer as much as they do. For 2.5 years, they've been bringing high-quality beer to Central Texas at their location on Bridge Street in East Waco. Brotherwell Brewing believes in community and bringing people together to enjoy products made in their community. So for your game day, whether it's a tailgate or at home, stop by Brotherwell Brewing for high-quality craft beer made right here in Central Texas, 400 East Bridge Street, and check them out online at brotherwell.com. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
This is the 365 Sports Fantasy Football Show. Here's Paul Catalina, Steve May, and Grayson Grundhaver.
A couple things we got to get to. Paul Catalina, Steve May, and Jacob Wilson. We've got to get to our DFS lineups, and then we also have to get to our Showdown Captain, which is, it's been a year since we've won any money. Actually, the only time we won money was when Jared from Bowling for Soup helped us. So
with the Cole Beasley pick.
Yeah, that one really helped us. So Let's do our DFS lineups. I will go first this time.
All right.
So I got Joe Burrow shootout against Kansas City, and plus I really love Joe Burrow. I love watching him play. I love everything about Joe Burrow. In this game against Patrick Mahomes, it's going to mean a lot to him. So I expect Swaggy Joe to come out in this game in a big way. And who knows who's going to win the game, but it's probably going to be a really good one.
Yep.
I like David Montgomery. You heard me say it in the last segment. He's going to get a lot more carries against a very average Green Bay defense, and especially in order to protect Justin Fields if he plays, or Trevor Siemian or whoever else they're going to roll out there if Justin Fields does not play. Cordell Patterson at 5,800. I think this is just a good value here for what is essentially the Falcons' most consistent thing on offense, and especially Kyle Pitts out for the year. Not someone. So that's more, kind of dump off and short passes you have to.
Patterson was involved more in the passing game last week.
So with Kyle Pitts out for the year, now you can go to maybe rely even some more points from Cordell Patterson. Chris Olave against Tampa Bay. The New Orleans offense isn't good, but Chris Olave is pretty much good in it every week. They've got, I don't know what they're doing at quarterback there. I know I'm a Jameis Winston apologist. I get it. But you cannot tell me that it would not be at least a little better if he was playing.
I agree, and I don't know what's
the whole point
there.
was Jameis got hurt, and then they said, "Well, the offense is playing well these last couple of weeks. We're not going to mess it up." Well, that ended 5 weeks ago, so it's not like this was like, "Oh, they had a bad game. Didn't worry about it. Everybody has one." Like it's over. Like I don't know what's going on there.
I don't know. I think I'm not convinced Dennis Allen is that great of a head coach. Well, I think he's more of a coordinator.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, Tanner and I were talking last night on Shooting the Shield. We did hot seats for NFL coaches, and Dennis Allen was one of mine.
Yeah. I mean, the way he's navigated the quarterback situation this year doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
No.
And look, if you're not going to play Jameis, then just put Taysom Hill back there and see what happens.
Yeah.
Because it's been better for you in the past that way than what's going on right now. Christian Watson, another one who doubled up from my lineup. Again, touchdown machine. And only 5,200 right now.
Yep.
So, get it while it's hot. Garrett Wilson will see more targets this week with Mike White. For some reason, Zach Wilson hadn't figured that out yet.
There can only be one Wilson on the field, Paul.
I guess so. Tight end Hayden Hurst versus Kansas City. I like him in goal line situations this week because there's going to be several of them.
Yeah.
So I think he might be good for a touchdown, and there's going to be a lot of distributed passes. There's going to be a lot of plays in this game. So I think you're good kind of on any of your Chiefs Bengals this week if you play them for the most part, if you don't get too deep down the roster. Flex T. Higgins had a really great game last week and helping them beat the Titans. Now, granted, Jamar Chase coming back, but still his first game back. T. Higgins has been playing well. And like I said, shootouts coming. And I picked the Falcons D at 3,200 here because it's the cheapest going against the worst offense. Mm-hmm. That's kind of how I pick my defenses.
Yeah.
It's really hard to score points on defense, even with the good ones. So I have a very solid rule of, for the most part, it's who's ever playing the Rams. But that team this week I'm blanking on was...
It is... Seattle, and they were priced pretty high.
They're priced pretty high, so I didn't want to mess with it. So that's my DFS lineup this week. Jacob.
All right, let's kick it off here. Like I mentioned in my starts, I like Jared Goff this week against the Jaguars, and it's a very, very reasonable price there. And I'm just going to roll it out, and hopefully he will make my prediction come true. Austin Eckler, I spent big on him. It's a very, very good matchup against the Raiders. The Raiders haven't been able to stop anything that runs this year. 8,500, I'm willing to spend that price tag. There's a lot of running backs who have good matchups who are a little pricey this week, and that's why I kind of favored that. And David Montgomery, like you mentioned in your starts, he's got a great matchup against Green Bay. Khalil Herbert's still out, and I think he's going to be better at home this week. If Justin Fields somehow miraculously comes back, that could improve his value as well. I wouldn't count on it too much, though. That being said, Amon-Ra St. Brown, another pricey guy at 7,100, but I want a piece of this game with Jacksonville and Detroit. And Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's obviously been one of the great stories this year. And Tyler Boyd, Steve, I know he was one of your sits.
Yep.
And that's because Jamar Chase is slated to come back this week. But the last time that these two guys played on the field together was week 7 against Atlanta. And Tyler Boyd had 32.5 points. And at 5,300, he was kind of, the last player that I, drafted for this team. And so it's a, relatively favorable matchup. This is actually the KC Cincinnati game is actually the highest over under the week at 52.5. Garrett Wilson, I think all three of us might have him in our lineups this week because I like the upside that Mike White, anyone not named Zach Wilson, really brings to the pass catchers there in New York. That's why I threw Tyler Conklin in there, really because of the price tag at 3,100. And hey, if you take a look at who he's playing, he's going back to Minnesota. You never know. It could be a revenge game for him. You always like that story when it happens. At flex, I've got Tony Pollard against Indianapolis. I think both him and Zeke are going to have great games. I think they get up. I think they're able to, run out that clock. I like Tony Pollard this week going forward. And then the Bears, it was very much a cost-cutting decision to throw them in as my defense. But the Packers, I believe, are 20th against fantasy defenses. And frankly, I don't like the prospect. I think if the Bears are going to get the Packers this time, I think this is the best chance that they're going to have.
Yeah. I mean, he said it, taunted the fans, I own you, and now he's hurt. So, there's a little of that. We all seem to have the same philosophy on defense. You can't score many points with it, really. You might get
Miami got a touchdown this past week, so that helped their scoring. I think them. I'm trying to think who are the top three. The Chiefs were up there just because they had several sacks. But yeah, it's
it's a stroke of luck.
Yes.
So what you want to get is just any points out of them that are positive to me, and so that's why you just find a team that's got a terrible offense. And even if that defense isn't that great, the offense is bad enough to make you go, all right, so cheap versus terrible offense, that could get you 7 points, and that could be the difference in you winning some money. So, all right, Steve.
All righty. So I went Trevor Lawrence, 5,900. It's a great matchup, like we talked about earlier. Should be high scoring for both sides. So I love Trevor Lawrence there. Nick Chubb is what I paid up on this week. I think it's going to be a smash play. Excuse me, for him against Houston, whose run defense is horrible. Jamal Williams, he gets touchdowns, and I think they're going to have some goal line opportunities here against Jacksonville. So, and again, I wanted some more action in that game. Keenan Allen scored a touchdown last week. He seems to be healthy against, let's see, they are not playing themselves. The Chargers are playing. Where'd it go?
The Raiders.
The Raiders, yeah. So Keenan Allen against the Raiders, good matchup. Zay Jones has been a target machine. Christian Kirk is number one there, but Zay Jones has been targeted almost as much as Kirk, and maybe more so the last couple of weeks. So Garrett Wilson, like Jacob said, we all have him. 5,300. If he keeps producing, that price is going to go up. So get him while he's cheap. Tight end, Foster Moreau caught a touchdown last week. Again, pretty decent matchup against the Chargers. 3,600, good value for tight end. And then my flex spot went to DK Metcalf. Again, getting a lot of targets. It's a good matchup. Should be against the Rams. I think Seattle will win that one. And then my defense, $3,000, Packers versus Chicago. If Chicago puts out Simeon. Simeon, I said Seaman. Simeon or Peterman. That's almost as bad. Then that the Packer defense should do well.
Yeah.
And cut down on the semen producing.
Steve coming in with the bodily function humor.
All right. So let's go ahead and draft our lineup.
Paul's blushing.
Bills and Patriots on Thursday night. Jacob, I believe in our last fantasy contest, our DFS contest, you were the winner, or was it Grayson?
I believe it was me.
It was you, so you get the first pick.
All right. Let's see here. What do we have in the way of Bills Patriots? We've got Like I'm looking at these Patriots receivers right now, and it's really a matter of a dart throw. Which one do you want to trust? But oh boy, Jacoby Myers. I don't like his questionable injury status here, and really, the Patriots have a solid defense, so it's not a great feeling, fuzzy feeling for anyone on the Bills this week. And so, you know what? I'm going to take a chance and do Nelson Aguilar.
Nelson Aguilar
as the captain.
As
the captain. I figure a cost-cutting measure would be good to start this out.
At $7,200.
Okay.
For Nelson Aguilar. All right. So Steve, your next pick.
All right. I'll just keep it very simple. I'll go with Diggs.
All right. Let's 11,600.
Okay.
So we have $31,200 left. Are we stupid if we don't take Josh Allen at some point during this?
Might be.
All right. This is going to make it hard for the here on out, but
go ahead.
I think we got to take Josh Allen, $19,000 left.
Wow. That might be the highest non-captain price I've seen.
Yeah.
19.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we got 3 spots left. Let's go back to Jacob.
Oh boy. I know this is very much self-inflicted by all three of us, but this is a really tricky situation here. You know what? I'll do another cost cutter and go with Tyler Bass.
Tyler Bass at $4,200. There we go. So we have 14,800 on the way out, Steve.
Okay.
So who you got?
Oh, man. I'm kind of tempted to do the Buffalo defense.
At 5,200?
Yeah.
So you want to do?
Yeah.
Okay. Buffalo defense. So
you should have some pretty good options there.
Gabe Davis, Mac Jones. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Devin Singletary, Isaiah McKenzie, Dawson Knox. I think I'm going to go Gabe Davis.
I would go Gabe Davis too.
Yes. And that leaves us $1,600 left over.
How much?
$1,600.
Okay.
It's a little bit much to be sitting in there. So, Jacob, I'm going to give you an opportunity. Well,
if you take out Bass, what does that do?
Not much. Devontae Parker, Hunter Henry. All right, let's see what happens when we take out the Bills defense. That gives us 6,800, which means you can get Isaiah McKenzie or Dawson Knox.
We've already got 2 Bills receivers in there.
The story we're telling with this lineup is that it's going to be a Bills blowout.
Yes.
But it's in New England. Belichick doesn't get blown out very often. He's gonna take away whatever the Bills do best. So what do the Bills do best?
Pass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We can leave it like it.
All right.
Or should we switch Bass with the Patriots kicker?
Here is a scenario that I will paint for you gentlemen here. If we have both kickers on this team, we could afford Ramondre Stevenson and take out Gabe Davis. If that is something that you'd be willing to do.
Take out the defense and put in the kicker?
Take out the defense
I'm all right with that.
And Gabe Davis.
So I have both kickers.
And you'd have the Patriots starting running back.
All right.
Yeah. So repeat it. So what do we got?
So here's our lineup. Captain Nelson Aguilar. Against a very banged up Buffalo secondary, by the way.
Yeah.
Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen, Tyler Bass, Nick Folk, and Ramondre Stevenson.
Okay.
All right.
I'm good with that. How much should we?
We have $400
left
over.
All right.
So there we go.
All right. The die is cast.
Yes. All right. May your arrows be true. Let's see.
All Aguilar needs to do is catch a touchdown to validate the captain's seat. Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
We did that one week with somebody odd. Who was it? It was somebody Grayson picked. And they caught a touchdown. They caught a touchdown. I can't remember who it was. It was a few weeks ago. Yeah. Like maybe the last time Grayson was with us. But
yeah. All right. Yeah. Well, that's going to do it for us Best of luck in your fantasy football matchups this week. The playoffs are getting close.
Yeah,
It's getting tense.
most leagues have 2 weeks left, so be looking. Kind of start if you're definitely in. Kind of plan. Look at your waivers. Start looking at the matchups that you may have during those playoff weeks and make moves accordingly.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, just keep an eye on your waiver wire before we get to the show next week for Jordan Love, because I do think that if Aaron Rodgers takes one solid hit net, they're gonna sit him down and make a decision. Later on. Yeah. So he might be out for a couple weeks, and Jordan Love, I think, can maybe help you win. I do. Anyway, again, he was going to be my start this week instead of Mike White. I'd been planning it the whole time because I thought there's no way that Aaron Rodgers, you saw how hurt he was, how he's going to play. And then he's on McAfee yesterday going, I'm going to play. Everything's fine. There's nothing broken. Like, yeah, but don't you hurt a little bit? Like,
he's going to drink a gallon of ayahuasca or whatever he drinks.
Ayahuasca?
Yeah. Ayahuasca.
Yeah. That's, I heard somewhere that there's like a side effect of that like for like a few months after you can be kind of like irritable on the back end because your brain's like, why can't I do that again?
I mean, based on everything I have heard from anyone in interviews who's tried it, I think pretentious is probably the most significant side effect of ayahuasca.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, that's going to do it for us. For Jacob Wilson, for Steve May, I'm Paul Catalina. Have a great week, everybody.